If you had a terrible dose of the flu and recovered, would you look for a replacement disease? Of course not. You'd just be delighted that you got rid of this very unpleasant disease. Well, today, you are getting rid of a disease, smoking, that is the biggest killer in the history of Western civilization. Nothing comes remotely close to the 4 million people killed by this drug every single year. You do not need a substitute for death. Substitutes that include nicotine are the absolute worst here. Obviously, I'm referring to the patch, the gum, the nasal inhalator, nicotine water, nicotine lollipops, all these bizarre nicotine products these days. And to be honest with you, I used many of these products when I was trying to quit smoking. You see, the problem with these products is they continue to feed nicotine into your body, keeping the little monster alive. And because the little monster associates this feeling with smoking, is it keeps the big monster alive, screaming at you to smoke. Your 10th instruction is to avoid all substitutes, whether they contain nicotine in them or not. They just create and perpetuate the feeling of deprivation. That's all they do. Think about it like this. Would you recommend to an alcoholic that they quit drinking by switching, I don't know, to beer instead of wine? Of course not. Well, blinding glimpse of the obvious alert here. To stop being addicted to nicotine, you have to stop taking nicotine. It's not rocket science, it's just plain common sense. Oh, and don't use cannabis as a substitute either. Otherwise you're just on 20 spliffs a day and life would get pretty unpleasant. You'd lose your house, you'll lose your job, you'll lose your car, you'll lose your family. But on the other hand, you won't care. You'll be, yeah, whatever. So, like I said, a little bit of weed is frankly neither here nor there, but categorically not with tobacco, and categorically not as a substitute. If you are currently a gum chewer, then by all means chew away. I mean, don't go anywhere near that disgusting nicotine gum. I've already touched on this point. But if you're just a regular gum chewer, you should feel free to chew away. When I smoked, I used to chew prodigious amounts of gum, and I realize now it was really just to mask the aftertaste of the tobacco, and now I don't smoke, I don't have this aftertaste, so I no longer need to chew gum. When I say don't chew gum, I'm not saying don't eat, I'm just saying don't eat to excess. Nobody needs to gain weight when they quit smoking, and when you hear these stories, you know, of people putting large amounts, 20, 30, 40 pounds on when they quit smoking, invariably they are using willpower to quit smoking. They still believe that the cigarette does something for them, so they feel deprived when they can't smoke. This makes them feel anxious and vulnerable, and they try to overcome this kind of feeling of emptiness by overeating. But to be honest with you, this has never been a problem with Alan Carr's Easy Way, because you don't have that sort of deprivation-based mindset. You don't feel empty and vulnerable. You feel happy and secure, you know. And when you feel happy and secure, you know, you won't feel the need to eat or do anything else instead of smoking, to be perfectly honest. You just get on with life and enjoy it. As I mentioned, actually, I myself lost a large amount of weight when I quit smoking using the Alan Carr method. Because for the first time, I started eating properly. I cut down this alcohol consumption. I upped my exercise for the first time, because for the first time I had energy. Like I said, you know, and this wasn't even necessarily a positive decision to want to get better. I just kind of felt less inclined to overeat and to overdrink and to sit around doing nothing. I just wanted to get up and out and do stuff, and things kind of developed from there. Like I said, I lost 35 pounds in the first 4 months after I quit. However, there are a couple of slightly technical aspects to smoking and weight that I need you to be aware of. The first is that a nicotine pang can feel very similar to a hunger pang. And some people confuse the two during the first couple of days and end up eating when they're not actually hungry. So if you find yourself getting kind of quote-unquote hungry over at odd times of the day over the next couple of days, you need to ask yourself, is this a nicotine pang or is this a genuine hunger pang? If it's a nicotine pang, then you need to brush it off, or just brush it off your sleeve as you would. And if it's a hunger pang, then eat. I mean, not junk food or you'll fall into the substitution trap, but eat well and eat healthy. In fact, the similarity between a nicotine pang and a hunger pang is the illusion of the cigarette as an appetite suppressant. I mean, physical withdrawal from nicotine feels like a hunger pang, so smokers kind of get scammed into thinking that smoking works as an appetite suppressant, when in fact it's only getting rid of a nicotine pang. I mean, think about it logically. Do you honestly think that non-smokers get hungry 20 times a day? Of course not. They get hungry at three times a day, at meal times. The other technical aspect to smoking and weight is in the area of the metabolic rate. Now, it is true that smoking elevates your metabolic rate, but actually by a tiny amount, between 1 and 2%. And it does it in the most dangerous way imaginable. It does it by thickening your blood and clogging up your veins and your arteries and your capillaries. I mean, let's face it, this is basically a recipe for a heart attack. I mean, come on. It's not as if smokers have this fabulous fat-burning capacity just because they smoke. I mean, if that was true, you would never see an overweight smoker. And tons of those around. I mean, I was one for years and years. As I say, weight gain has actually never been a problem with Alan Card's Easy Way. Many people echo my experience, which was, like I said, that I lost weight when I quit, because I felt positive and empowered to look at the other areas of my life that I just couldn't control when I was a smoker. I'd never been able to seem to be able to control my food, my alcohol, my lack of exercise. And when I got the cigarette out of my life, I was able to take control in these areas. And this is really what created the weight loss and the sense of well-being. I mean, and of course, exercising is a fantastic way to kickstart your metabolism. I mean, the weight absolutely fell off me. Yeah. There is one objective to everything that I have said during the course of this webcast, and it's this. It's so that whenever you think about smoking, whether it's going to bed this evening or bouncing your great-great-grandchildren on your knee in 50 years' time, it's so that whenever you're thinking about cigarettes, you're not thinking, oh, I mustn't smoke, I mustn't smoke, I mustn't smoke. You're thinking how great it is to be a non-smoker and how much you hated being a slave to nicotine. Now, in order to retain that frame of mind for the rest of your life, you only really need to remember these three very, very, very simple instructions. The first is that remember that there are no benefits to smoking whatsoever. If there were, they would be plastered all over the pack. There is literally nothing to give up here, apart from a life of stress and anxiety and fear and slavery. Secondly, remember that physical withdrawal from nicotine, while it does exist, it's very mild. In fact, so mild that it never even woke you up when you were a smoker. The truth is that if physical withdrawal from nicotine was as brutal as many people claim, you would never be able to sleep through it. The fact that you slept through it every night as a smoker, this indicates that physical withdrawal from nicotine really is imperceptible. And in any case, you're 100% nicotine-free after 3 days. The third essential to finding it easy to quit smoking is to realize that you've already won. You've done it. It's finished. It's over. You've won. You're already a non-smoker. The only challenge now is to be happy about that decision. So one final time, should we be happy or unhappy? Well, like everything that we have tried to do today, instead of making this decision based on fear and emotion, let's look at the facts. MSNBC reported that if a 40-year-old pack-a-day smoker quits and invests that money in a 401k, by the time they retire, they will be $400,000 better off. If you woke up tomorrow morning and found a check made out in your name for $400,000, would you be happy or unhappy? I'm guessing you'd be pretty happy. I know I would. And so you should be. The amount obviously changes depending on how old you are and how much you smoke, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see. What we are talking about here is, for many people, a life-changing amount of money. Now, I'm not suggesting that you quit smoking for the money. I mean, any smoker can always cobble together a couple of bucks for a packet of smokes. So whilst the extra money is nice, it's not the only reason that you should do this. The much, much bigger reason I think at least, is that with the decision that you've taken today, you've given yourself an extra 8 to 24 years of life. Statistically, this is how much longer non-smokers live than smokers. 8 to 24 years. This is big stuff. Really, you can't buy this stuff in a store. But even that's not the big one. For me, anyway. The biggest benefit of the decision that you have taken today is that today you have given yourself access to a quality of life that you just can't have if you smoke. You can have more money than Bill Gates. It doesn't matter. If you're a smoker, your life is defined by this thing and the garbage that it brings with it. It's only as a non-smoker that you can trade in this life of stress and anxiety and fear and slavery and trade it in for a life of health and happiness and freedom. This is a wonderful thing that you have achieved here today. You should celebrate from square one and continue to celebrate every day for the rest of your life. By cutting off the supply of nicotine, you have delivered that monster a fatal killer blow. Now, having said that you should be happy, please don't get complacent. The vast majority of the people that attend our seminars really do find it ridiculously easy to stop smoking. And this is wonderful. But there's a risk that is inherent in finding something easy. Sometimes things we find easy we don't value very highly. So we can kind of find ourselves in a situation like, well, I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks with the boys, and the boys will all be smoking the big cigars, and so I'll just smoke when we're in Vegas, and then I'll find it really easy to quit again when I get back. Right? Wrong. If you smoke after today, you have to assume that you're going to have to smoke all day, every day, for the rest of your life. Pull out that list of what life was like as a smoker and read it, and ask yourself, very simple question, do I want to go through the rest of my life feeling like this or worse, just so I can do a drug that doesn't even get me high? This is a massive backward step. Don't go anywhere near this drug. It's very, very easy to quit smoking, but it's impossible to control it. You know, don't let the ease with which you can quit, don't let that fool you into thinking that you can smoke the occasional cigarette. It's impossible to control. Do not think that you can ever get into the ring with this guy and get out in one piece, because you can't. In closing, I will not wish you luck, because frankly, it's just not relevant. You have made a wonderful, intelligent, informed decision. You do not need luck. Instead, what I will wish for you is what happened to me when I made that decision all those years ago. To be honest with you, I was a miserable smoker, and I thought quitting would make me even more miserable. In fact, it was the opposite that happened. I am so much happier now that my life isn't being controlled by a drug, and that happiness has spilled over into every other aspect of my life. After years of groping through the darkness, Alan Carr's Easy Way released me from a world of doom and gloom into a world of sunshine, health and happiness. Walk this path and you will never ever regret it. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share Alan Carr's Easy Way with you. I wish you all the very best for a happy, smoke-free future.